What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fast Trax Live. My name is Paul Abernathy. Welcome to the Wednesday night stream. Hopefully you join us and you're a Fast Trax student, or you're a former Fast Trax student, or you're just an enthusiast of the National Electrical Code. Thanks for joining me here on Wednesday night. If you don't know who I am, my name is Paul Abernathy, and I'm the CEO and founder of Electrical Code Academy Incorporated. I created the Fast Trax program. I've been in the industry for about 33 years. Served as a head of electrical inspections, as an engineer for the city of Richmond, Virginia. Of course, I served as the head of inspections supervisor for the city of Alexandria, Virginia. Worked at NEMA, the National Electrical Manufacturers Association, as their Southern Field Representative and expert to the South on the National Electrical Code. And I was an electrical contractor for many years and continued that while I did some of these other tasks. Okay, had folks working for me. So I have quite a few years in the industry, and one of my specialties is helping people understand the National Electrical Code. Thus is why I created Electrical Code Academy. Prior to Electrical Code Academy, there was Electrical Service Specialist, which was a company I also owned, which is a corporation. It was in Texas. And I did seminars around the state, and I helped write the continuing education requirement for the state of Virginia. I ended up coming to Texas in 2014 to work with a large manufacturer of wire and cable as a head of their codes and standards division. And it also allowed me to expand the corporation here in Texas. So Electrical Code Academy Incorporated is a Texas corporation. It's not a sole proprietorship. It is a full-fledged corporation located here in Texas. We have served quite a few, I have quite a few patents on wire and cable applications, but I also have trademarks on Fast Trax, on CME-CP, which is our Certified Master Electrical Code Professional Program. So again, doesn't take but a minute to Google to see who I may be, but if you've stumbled on me, it is probably because you're in our Fast Tracks program or you're interested in our Fast Tracks program. So one of the things that I like to do is obviously this Wednesday night, which used to be closed, by the way, used to be only open to Fast Track students, and they would log in and we do this in Zoom, and we opened it up in order to be able to allow other people to join us and chime in. Hopefully you are on one of those other platforms and you kind of stumbled your way over to watch these streams. We're on TikTok, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're in fasttrackstube.com, where you can also watch these live streams as well. The easiest thing to remember is on most all of our platforms, where the @ symbol, we're at Master the NEC, all one word, Master the NEC. So that's usually our username on all of our platforms. Now, we don't stream to TikTok and we don't stream to Instagram, but we do on all the other platforms that we will stream on. On LinkedIn, which I'd love to connect with any of you that are watching over on LinkedIn. It's just search for Paul Abernathy. You'll see me. When you see it, you know it, and I'd love to join up with you and get connected in that business platform. Let's do some shout outs into the room. I'm going to go real quick into the chat room. Before I get into some things, I want to talk a little bit about exam preparation and how you should use a Fast Tracks course for those that aren't familiar with it. Okay. And then we'll get into tonight. We're going to be looking at cooking appliances. We'll start out by looking at just some branch circuit applications for cooking appliances, which we get the rights to use 220.55 by Note 4 of that part of 220.55 in the National Electrical Code for ranges, cooktops, ovens, and what have you. I will remind you that we're going to be using 2020 tonight because, again, the vast majority of our students are in the 2020. If you're in the 2023 or you're in the 2017, they're going to be very similar, just might be some numbering changes to be aware of. But other than that, the principles tonight are going to stay the same, okay? And also it'd be remiss if I didn't shout out and say, let's go Texas Rangers. They're playing as we speak, and one more win tonight, and Texas Rangers will win the World Series. So go Texas Rangers. Even though I don't watch that much baseball anymore, it is in Texas. So I would be remiss if I didn't at least shout out to my fellow Texans. Okay. All right, let's go to chat real quick so I can give a shout out to folks. Let's see who we've got up in the room tonight. Schwartzy, as always, my rock. Thank you, Schwartzy. Glad you could join. Brandon, let's go. Brandon's in the house. O is in the house. Who we got? David in the house. Freeland is joining us. Let's see here. Eric. Okay. Let's see. Walter. Thanks, Walter. Down there, a fellow Texan down there is hooping it up, and hopefully we will get a win tonight. If you're a fan, by the way. Okay. So we'll give a shout out there. And let's see who else we got. Maintenance McKee. There you go. Welcome. And let's see. Okay. Other couple shout outs to Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. Just wanted to say a big thank you. Passed North Carolina Limited on the first try. You are most welcome, Brandon. Hey, the future's yours. Everything's in your hands to be successful. I tell you, North Carolina is a great state. I love North Carolina, and the opportunity is there. So congratulations. You know, whether you watch our videos or you watch our training, I get people every day who will ask me, can this program or anything that we do help you learn the NEC? Now, I'm not the best educator in the world. I never claim to be. But I try to put things in a way, and I am a bit long-winded most of the time. And by the way, if y'all see me kind of looking over, it's because my screen's here and my camera's a little off center, so hopefully that doesn't annoy you. I am talking to you, okay? But the way my screens, I'm sure most of you are aware, I've got about 6 feet of screen. So there's all kinds of stuff, and now that I can actually see the screens, again, it just makes me, I'm looking in all directions. So just because I don't look at you, don't mean I'm not with you, because I am. All right, Eric. Welcome, Eric. I see Eric in the house. Let's see here. Who else we got? Don't be shy out there, folks. Russ. Russ is in the house. Thanks, Russ. Jermaine is in the house. Thank you for coming, Jermaine. Brooklyn Bones is in the house. Rewire Francis is in the house. Thanks for joining. Red Dog is in the house. Folks, we got a bunch of people in the house tonight. Okay. The topic must be good. Everybody wants to talk about cooking appliances. Okay. Before I get into that, let's talk about some current events and current news. I have to get to some current events, folks. And if you're working on one of our Fast Trax units, or you're in our program and you have a question on any unit you're working on, do me a favor. Don't be afraid to work that up in your typing and then put that in the chat, and I will do my best to answer it. Again, please be germane to what unit you're working on and what code cycle you're in, as it's important. I tell people this all the time. When you get a Fast Trax program, it's important that you make sure you know the state that you're getting it in, okay? Because, again, it doesn't do you any good to buy a 2023 program if there's testing in the 2020, right? I can't determine that for you. You have to determine that for you. So those out there that may be interested in a program, just make sure you do your due diligence before you purchase a program, because once they're locked and registered, we can't change them, okay? So anyway, make sure I wanted to get that out. Let's see here. Jermaine says, waiting on the board to approve you to take your exam. All right, well, let us know. NYPD Mike, what's up, yo? Okay, Mike, if I got any tickets in New York, I need you to take care of those for me. I do come there occasionally, but I need you to go check my profile and need you to wipe those out for me. All right, so I won't say the big fix is in, but y'all got a lot of problems in New York anyway, so I'm just saying. All right, folks, so first things first, for those that are in Fast Trax Plus program, you've been wondering if you'd had some issues with getting into Fast Trax 2. That's the video portion of your program. We've been doing some updates. So for about a day and a half, it locked people out, maybe a day. And I got bombarded with emails. People were like, what happened? I paid for it. And I got to relax. Life still keeps going. We're all going to die. It just keeps going. So it will get fixed. It always gets fixed. So just relax, but everything's back up and working. So that's good news, okay? The grounding and bonding budget course is available. So for those that are interested in that, we have a budget course available. Also I should remind people, because I forget to do this, and Darlene reminded me to do this, is that if you're interested in getting the annual subscription to Fast Trax Tube, I'm going to save you money right now. And I can't help you if you already purchased. I'm sorry. It's kind of like those things when Walmart puts a special on, you're stuck, right? It's done, it's done. But we are doing a 50% off special for the Fast Trax Tube. And I think next week or whatever, there's about 20 more videos being uploaded to that. Right now it's up to about 300 videos, and we're going to keep adding. And we're moving certain ones off of our YouTube channel that will be exclusive over on there. So just be aware of it. But it's 50% off. The code is 50OFF, just 50OFF, all caps. So write that down if you're interested in the annual subscription. So basically it's about $50 and you get access to all of that, right? So, and we have some webinars in there, 12-hour grounding and bonding webinar. That you get, and you get the entire series we did on pools, spas, and hot tub with Vince Delacroix. And we're refilming that for the 2023, hopefully in a couple months. We had to delay that, but we will be getting back to that, okay? Just want to keep everybody abreast of that. Lastly, for those that haven't heard, we have a new podcast that's going to be coming out. It's a live podcast. You can listen to it from SparkyMafia.com, or you can actually listen to it as well over at fasttraxtube.com. Under the podcast button, you'll see one that says Sparky Mafia Podcast. If you go there on Sunday evenings at 6 p.m. Central Time, you're just chilling out and you want to listen. Maybe you're laying in your bed, you just want to chill out and listen. Okay, you can go there on your mobile device or whatever, it doesn't matter. Go there and you can listen to the show live from 6 to 8. Who knows what the hell I'll be talking about, but it won't be all electrical. Everything is fair game. Politics, religion, current events. I'm sure to offend somebody because I'm an equal opportunity offender, but make sure you join us. It will be Sunday evenings at 6 p.m. Central Time. Okay? All right. Let's get into what we're talking about tonight. So first thing, let me kind of talk about those folks out there who ask me, and we have some new folks that came in that asked me about how you're supposed to study for an exam. So let me tell you the secret. Okay? The secret to studying for an exam is to study and try to get 95 to 100 hours of dedicated study. Now, how you want to break that down weekly is really up to you. We recommend that you study at least 2 times a week for 4 hours each session, or you can do 4 hours a week for 2 hours each session. However, it is about 8 hours a week of dedicated study time. So you're going to have to block that off. You're going to have to say to the significant other and the kids, look, this is my time. Because I can really tell in the grading if you put in the time, but you don't really put in the time. You know what I'm saying? You're not really dedicated to it. You're just kind of just there meandering through it, doing some of the exercises, but you're not really focused. You know what I'm saying? I can usually tell. And any of our students, and feel free if any in here that want to chime in, the importance of that dedicated time. Because really that's going to be the difference. And that's the whole reason for structured plans, by the way, is to work you and drip feed you from a unit 1 all the way up to unit 19 and realize that you're going to stumble along the way. It's okay. Not a problem. Now, if you're not in our program and you're studying for the exam, that's okay too. My advice is make sure that if you're doing it with code questions, just code questions, make sure you get your money's worth for your code question. In other words, don't worry about timing yourself so much as you're studying. Make sure that you really take that question and you literally pick it apart. Pick every piece of it apart. Look and see how many of these words you can find in the index. Okay, and so what it does is it's going to help raise your comfort level, especially when you're preparing for an electrical exam. Because you know what? Electrical exams are stressful. They're tough. And anybody tells you that they're super easy, they're full of it. Because they're not. Anything that puts you at a certain stress level is definitely something that's going to really cause you to have that heart pounding and all this kind of stuff. So again, at the end of the day, it's okay. People struggle in exams. It's just part of the nature of the beast, but you'll get it. I can promise you that everything you need to know will be either something you learn in the field, because you have to have that time in to qualify, and then the other parts you'll learn in our program. Okay, so at least you'll learn the methods. We can't give you the answers. We don't know what's in every test, but at least you'll get the process, that type of thing. Okay. And O says, don't get the DeWalt electricians practice test. Yeah, actually we use the DeWalt in our practices exam, but that's where you got about those 7 or 8 wonky questions, right? But good advice from O is, the new database of questions that we have are much better. The only problem with O, I believe O is in California, so I believe that he would have still been on the 2017, and we did not buy the new database for 2017, right? We have them for 2020 and 2023, so that wouldn't have helped you there, O, but again, yeah, be careful. There's some out there that you can get, and you just have to be really careful. Things that are sold on Amazon, be very, very careful, okay? Because it might look good, because anything, I can take a turd and polish it off and make it look great, but it might not be that great. You know what I'm saying? So what I can promise you is, if you really have to get your exam, you really have to pass it. I don't know of any better program than the Fast Trax. Other stuff, you're pretty much on your own, okay? Again, not a commercial. I'm just saying, from experience. People ask me all the time, what do I recommend? Well, I would be a fool if I didn't recommend my own program. I'm just saying, it is what it is. Christopher is in the house. Thanks for joining us, Christopher. Daryl has joined us. Welcome, Daryl. And I believe I said Red Dog, but thanks for joining me. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's kind of go real quick and look at start off with some easy calculations. First of all, let's just make sure that we're not here to recreate the Fast Trax. Okay, let me make that clear. We're not here to do that. What we're here to do is to kind of reaffirm some of the things you should be learning in the program, right? and hammering that stuff home so that you're not confused. And if I can get you in certain topics that you just know what it is and you don't have to think about it, then you know what? It gives you that element of you're ready, right? And you'll know you're ready. After you put in about 95 hours of dedicated study, you'll know when you're ready, okay? And you still might fail, but you know what? You don't give up. Electricians don't give up, right? We keep plugging away. All right, let's go into the lesson real quick and start into this. I don't want to keep y'all really long tonight. I know y'all are tired. You work hard days. So I'll do my best to get us straight to the point here. All right, so we are working out of Unit 7 in the Fast Trax program. So some of you, this should be old hat for you. And some of you that are new or still into it, we're going to look at it, and it's going to be a lot of refreshing for you. And that way it kind of makes it easier for you to understand, okay? All right, so this is the first thing we're looking at right here. So let's say the first thing we're dealing with is we get an exam question, and it really is talking about the branch circuit. So that's the first thing to focus. If you get an exam, there's a difference between a load calculation for, let's say, the service, and there's a difference between asking you a branch circuit question. Identifying the branch circuit question is important, right? Because again, at the end of the day, that's what we need to understand and identify that we're dealing with a branch type of question, right? Now, this is still a load calculation question, so I'm going to show you how they all tie together, right? Okay, so absolutely. Michael says that it's very important to have a good study routine. He is absolutely 100% right. And I sure wish I could put that on the screen, but I can't, Michael. So it's right there on the screen. A good study routine, and make sure you repeat it. Okay, stay in repetition with that. All right, so let's look at here. So a branch circuit calculation for one cooktop with a nameplate rating of 6.5 kW at 240 volts. Okay, so let's go on, and this is our question, or this is kind of the situation, and I'll highlight that. All right, so what we're dealing with is we're using the nameplate rating to determine the branch circuit conductor size and overcurrent protection for one counter-mounted cooking unit. Now, we're able to use 220.55 note 4, okay? But what I want to do is take you to the NEC and what kind of steers us in that direction for folks that might, say, well, where does this steer me? How does it get me there? And it's kind of part of that learning journey that you get. So if you know that 220 deals with load calculations for branch, feeder, and service, okay, in Article 220. At the beginning of 220, it talks about the branch circuits as part 2. It gets into branch circuit applications, right? And this is where it starts making statements. Now, the 2023 made it as clear as I've ever seen it, but 2020 is just as clear, and of course 2017 is just as clear as well. Hey, Michael, welcome. Michael is a new Fast Trax student, so welcome, Michael. Thanks for joining me. And he experienced some issues that we had with the Fast Trax 2, but we got that all cleared up. Hopefully, still have some bugs that I'm trying to work out, but the internet is what it is. So, all right, so let's kind of go to the NEC real quick. So in the NEC, you'll have 220.14, okay? 220.14, and here you start going, this is all other loads, and I just want to remind you where we're at real quick. Shakia, thank you for the like. I love the likes on the stream. So again, appreciate the likes, whatever platform you're on. We love the likes. All right, so here we are. We're in branch circuits, okay? A load calculation. And then we go down to other, right? And then down here you see B right here. And this is where it says, okay, it says load calculations shall be permitted as specified in 220.54. Of course, that's dryers right there, okay? And 220.55 for electric ranges and other cooking appliances. So first of all, that gives us the permission to use 220.55, which is ranges. And I am going to say, Ted, welcome to the room. And that is absolutely. So Ted says, and you can see it on the screen, Swartzy's quizzes on Sparky Hub help also He gives you feedback without flat out giving you the answer. So look, one of the perks is to join the Sparky Hub. Now, you don't automatically get into the Fast Trax folder. You have to join it and then let me know that you're a Fast Trax student and give me your username, and then I will let you into that folder. But what Michael has been doing, he's been posting them in the general discussion forum, and he's been posting quite a lot of questions lately. Make sure you go give them a try. Even when I go there, I really want to start answering them, but I'm like, what's the point? It's for you folks to go there. But again, anytime you can exercise the brain by answering questions, it's going to make you better, and it's also going to identify what you don't know. Even if you're not preparing for an exam, you want to get better at the NEC. Everybody does, right? I mean, you're not a full-fledged, to me, and not a full-rounded electrician until you know the mental part and the physical part. And the mental part is the code, whether you want to like it or not, whether you agree or not. Facts is the facts. Right? Everything that you do in an installation is somewhere founded in code. Whether it's you're just used to securing and supporting, well, comes from .30 of the different wiring method articles, okay? So boxes, how many wires you put in it, all this, it all comes from code. So even though you may do it and be repetitious, everything revolves around code. So you gotta have the physical, you'll get that with time. The mental part, you can start learning that anytime, whether you're preparing for a license or you've already got your license, taking your game to the next level, right? So as Ted says, please, Swartzy puts in a lot of work to these, and he's also over on Fast Trax chat a lot too. Guys, he's really trying to help you out and give you that little bit more. And we created these platforms, and Michael has really stepped up to the plate and really is doing it. And we are at the brink of shutting some down. But I keep thinking of Michael and the effort he puts into it, and I just can't see myself shutting it down. We just keep backing away from the shutdown. Anyway, sorry about that. But again, shout out to Swartzy, and thanks, Ted, for pointing that out. All right. So anyway, there's where you get that permission. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go on and go to 220.55, and I will remind you, in the 2023 edition of the National Electrical Code, the notes underneath the 220.55 have changed. Now, it didn't change the intent, okay, of these notes, right? It didn't change any of the notes below the table. Like in this situation right here, these notes right here, there's 5 of them, okay? And you folks can see it, probably not as clear as I'd like you to see it, but I can scroll around. So you got these notes here. Hopefully you got your code book. In the 2023 edition, we have more notes, okay? Thank you, Jesse. I didn't see you in the room, Jesse, but thank you for joining. So in this scenario right here, it's no different. The only difference is that right here, note number 3 has expanded a little bit. And then note number 4, when it deals with the branch circuit and stuff, everything has kind of been broken out a little bit more in the 2023. But not to confuse you, the 2020 is not complicated, all right? But now what we're looking at is, this is note 4 right here, branch circuit load, all right? All right, so what we've got here, it says number 4, because we are dealing with a branch circuit and 220.14 told us we could come here. It says, it shall be permissible to calculate the branch circuit load for one range in accordance with table 220.55 for branch circuits loads for one wall mounted or one counter mounted unit shall be the nameplate rating of the appliance. Okay, so see this piece right here? So we're not actually using the table here. What we're going to do, thank you, Scott, and everybody for the likes. I appreciate it. We're going to be using, since this is a counter-mounted cooking unit, right here, one counter-mounted cooking unit, we're going to be using and doing exactly what it said. We're going to be using what? We're going to be using the nameplate rating of the appliance. So that's where we get that in. So what's interesting is note 4 is actually multiple pieces. If it was a range, right, then it's telling you to do what? Use the table. If it's a cooktop or one oven, separate by itself, then it says use the nameplate of the actual appliance. Makes sense? So we go back to our lesson here. So in this case, again, we're doing branch circuit. So in this case right here, note 4 is what told us to do what? Told us to just do what? It says, thank you, Keith. Keith is our on-call wire rep here in Texas. Does great stuff. Appreciate you, Keith. And all-around great guy, by the way. So here we go. And so note 4. So here's what we're doing. We're using the nameplate, which was 6.5 kW. That's what it said right here. Right, so again, y'all all know what I like to do. So the kW, you want to get it into watts or VA, however you like. And so the K represents 1,000, so we don't have to do a whole lot. 6.5 is 6,500. Or you could take the 6.5 times 1,000, however you feel comfortable. And that is 6,500 watts. Now, it's a 240-volt circuit. It's what told us right here. So we just simply take the 6,500 divided by 240. It's 27.1 amperes. So there's our amps right here. That's what we've got on the screen. 27.1 amps. Now, when it comes to the overcurrent protected device, now we have to have a conductor that can handle the amps. We already know that. But as far as protecting the conductors with the overcurrent device, this is an example where we go, okay, well, it's 27.1 amps. There is no overcurrent device that is rated for 27.1 amps. So 240.4b, it's going to say, well, you can protect us with a 30 amp overcurrent device. Right? Makes sense? Pretty straightforward, right? So we'll go look at the code in a minute and look at that. Now, when it comes to conductor sizing, remember that this is a 10 gauge. And so under the small conductor rules in 240.4d, right, small conductor rules, then you have to have a conductor that protects this 30 amp. There's overcurrent device that protects this conductor. So if you go to 240.4d, what is it going to tell you? It's going to tell you that a 30 amp overcurrent device has to have what? It has to have a 10 gauge copper, right? So we're going to kind of troll that a little bit in the code. Go look at it and kind of follow that realm. So the first thing we want to look at is the overcurrent protected device in 240.4b. So let's go look at that real quick. All of those that are new to the program, this is covered all in your program. Let's see here. Or am I having trouble finding where I'm looking at? Okay, there we go. Okay, so first thing I want to go is 240.4b right here. So here's where we're at, first part, okay? And let's see here. Just want to make sure the screen is scrolling. Looks like it. I don't think anybody's posted anything because it hadn't rotated. So, all right. So here's B. So it says the next higher standard overcurrent device rating above the ampacity of conductors being protected, in this case was 27.1 amps conductors, shall be permitted to be used provided that the following conditions are met. Well, again, it's not supplying any more than one receptacle for cord and plug, okay? More than one. It's supplying one or one outlet. Which is just an outlet in general, so it's not a receptacle. And then, we'll assume that's hardwired. And then, of course, here it doesn't correspond. Then it says you can go to the next standard size. And then down here, the next standard size does not exceed 800 amps. Well, it doesn't. So, now, when it comes to that, here's the small conductor rules. And in the small conductor rules, you scroll down and you're going to see that, let's see here, 10 right here. A 10 gauge copper, 30 amp overcurrent protected device. Pretty straightforward, right? Now, also, if we were to go look at ampacities, by the way, just 31016, just to kind of round all this out. And we went down here, and this is 31016, so here's a 10, and you see the asterisks, right? And the asterisks, again, 27.1. Again, we didn't say anything in the question, so that means that we're going to use a 60 degree, right? Because we didn't state anything otherwise, and it is under 100 amps or less, right? So we're going to default to the 60. So here's a 10, and this is 30 amps under the 60 degree column. So there you go, 30 amps. So it all works out, okay? And you still have that little asterisk, right? Which at the end of the day, comes down here to the bottom, and here's what it says right here. Section 240.4d shall be referenced for conductor and overcurrent protection limitations. Okay? And so that's kind of the loop effect of what we did for the lesson, okay? Okay. So in this case, it's simple. 10 gauge, 30 amp, that's it. That's all you need. All right, wall mounted oven, same concept, same thing, 220.55 node 4. Again, it's going to be different in the 2023, same concept, same thing, okay? Not changing in how we do it. Numbering changes, but then the process is still the same. We're going to use the nameplate for this because it is just one wall mounted oven, that's it. So it is a 4 kW or 4,000 watts, as you can see here. And so it's just 4,000 divided by 240 is 16.7. Okay, so there. And of course, this is small conductor rules as well. Same issue is going to be here. Now, interesting enough, if we go back to the NEC and we're doing 16.7, then you'll look down here and go, okay, well, if we're not 16.7, then you'll say, well, let's see here. Why wouldn't it be a 14? Well, because of the conduct rules here, 14 has to be protected, right? It has to be protected at 15 amps. And right here, where 16.7 doesn't correspond, right? So we go to the next standard size overcurrent protected device, which is a 20 amp. Well, of course, since it's a 20 amp, it doesn't matter that this conductor here on the 60 degree 14 is good for 25 amps. It doesn't really matter because our overcurrent device is what? 20 amps. And because our overcurrent device is 20 amps, the small conductor rule says that a 20 amp overcurrent device is going to have a 12 gauge copper. And that was the same thing that we just saw previously when we did the other. And just to make sure we hammer that home, I will go back and to look at that in 240. I can find it right here. Again, old hat for you, but we want to make sure these are just low-hanging fruit that you just don't screw up on an exam. So there's the B. Perfectly can apply it, right? And this means that it can actually do the next size up, and that's fine. Right? And then, of course, then you've got the small conductor rules down here. There's your small conductor rules. And there's your 12 copper, 20 amps. Now, while I'm here, I usually would be remiss if I didn't mention something. There's a lot of people that when it comes to conductors and sizing overcurrent protected devices and conductors, they get really confused. And they go, well, wait a minute. How come with the air conditioning units, HVAC, that's in 440, or how come in motors, how come I can have a 40 amp or a 50 amp overcurrent device, which is actually the short circuit ground fault protection? How come that can be that, but then the conductors only have to be a 12 gauge? What allows me to do that? That just sounds odd to be able to do that, right? Well, the reason you're able to do that is because of the allowance here. It says, unless specifically permitted in 240.4E or G, then these are the general rules that we just talked about that you got to follow, which is the 12 gauge for a 20, 10 gauge for a 30. However, if you go down and you look at G, right here, these are special conductor applications. And this is where it gives you in 440 and 430 and all these other locations. This is where it really says that you can actually go and use the allowances over in those other articles, right? Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the chat. I don't think anybody's chatting because I see yours and you just chatted, so I'm not sure what's going on. So I just think people aren't chatting. They're not real chatty tonight, I think, Michael. I think that's what it is. All right, so let's go back to the lesson. All right, so there you go. So that is test. I see you, Jesse, testing system. All right. I don't know of it being slow tonight. I'm not having any problems, and it certainly doesn't show that my stream is lagging. So I have no dropped frames, so I don't, it's got to be on some other end because I'm showing it scrolling along fine. All right, let me go on. Okay. So the next thing we're going to look at is, okay, we're still in the branch circuit, okay? scenarios. So we've got counter-mounted cooking units. So now this case is still a branch circuit. So we're still talking branches. We haven't done any load calc yet for anything other than branch circuit applications. So in this case, we have counter-mounted cooking unit, cooktop, and wall-mounted oven. Same note 4, same note, right? Here it says the nameplate rating of the counter-mounted cooking unit or the wall-mounted oven shall be the minimum branch circuit load in table 220.55. We'll look at the note 4, okay? So let's see what it says now. We have, if we have 2 of these together, let's see if the example is going to give us both of them. Yeah, so that's, okay. So if each of these were individually supplied, like we said before, then you use a nameplate to supply each one, and that's what you're going to do with that. Okay, we just kind of went over that. Use the nameplate for those. Pretty straightforward for those branch circuits. Now, the code gives us the allowance to do what? Have a branch circuit with some tap conductors coming off of that branch circuit from a junction box, and I actually can supply a wall-mounted oven and a counter-mounted cooking unit or a cooktop, okay? So there you go. So we have this allowance. So we're going to go look at the note and see what the note says to us, how we work this one out. So let's go to the NEC real quick. And we'll go back to 220. And we'll go back to 55. And let's look at these notes again. All right, so unfortunately, I wish I could show it all on the screen, so we're going to have to scroll it here, but you've got your code book. You can do that as well. So, all right, so we're dealing right here in the branch circuit load. So first line was, it shall be permissible to calculate a branch circuit load for one range in accordance with table 220.55. Okay, so we're not using the first one. Done. The next one says the branch circuit load for one wall-mounted oven or one counter-mounted cooking unit shall be the rating of the appliance. Okay, we did that. Done. We showed you how to do that piece of it. Oh, and by the way, a lot of times people on an exam in the 2020 code here, if you're in a state that lets you do this, they will actually take 3 different color highlighters and highlight each one of those separately, because those are 3 different scenarios, okay, that you're working on. And so again, they're all rolled into one, so it can get confusing, but there is a lot of people, if you're in a state, now if you're not testing, and it doesn't matter, and you just want to work in your code book, like Rewire, he does a lot of work in his code book. He's already licensed, but he does a lot of highlighting because his job depends on it. He wants to be able to get the answer quickly if he needs it. So he has multiple highlighters. So highlight it out. So what we're going to be working with is this one. This one here. It says the branch circuit load for a counter-mounted cooking unit and not more than 2 wall-mounted ovens, all supplied from a single branch circuit and located in the same room. So they're in the same room, obviously they're in the kitchen. Calculated by adding the nameplate ratings of the individual appliances and treating the total as equivalent to one range. Okay? All right? Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so let's look and see what it says right here in the lesson. So that's what we're doing. We have multiples right here. And then we'll go look at the other branch circuit requirements for this. Let's go back to the lesson real quick. Okay, so this is what we're seeing right here. So this is, so here's what A says. Let's talk about that tap first. You got your code books, right? So here's what A. Now A is talking about this right here. See these? I don't know if you can see this on the screen here. Right here. See this little right here? This is a tap, and this is a tap. Okay, so let's see what the rules say about this first before we deal with the loading. This is allowed to be a tap. This is allowed to tap. Okay, what does it say? Tap conductors from a 50 ampere branch circuit must have an ampacity of not less, these are the tap conductors, by the way. We're talking about these conductors. Must have an ampacity at least 20 amperes, so these can't be any less than a 12 gauge. We got that right. And not less than the ampere of the individual units being served. So it can't be less than a 12. Either one of these taps can't be less than a 12, but they could be greater depending on the appliance that it's serving. So keep that in mind. So there's a minimum of 12, but it could be larger. So keep that in mind. It says these tap conductors include any conductors that are part of the pigtail supplied with the appliance that are smaller than the branch circuit conductors. Okay? It says the taps shall not be longer than necessary to for servicing the appliance. Now, where are we getting this about the tap conductors and the 50? So notice right here in our course we give you chevrons. That's the first thing you should notice if you're in the Fast Trax program. Okay, we're picking this apart. So that's where we get that. So we're going to go look at 210.19a3 in the exception. So let's go look at that really quickly so we can understand a little more about these tap conductors if you install this. I'm going to be honest with you. This usually, I didn't see this in the houses I did. I did multi-million-dollar houses. They never did this. These were either separate. There were separate ovens, it didn't run it off of a single branch circuit and do these taps. Okay? It's not something that I just never did a lot of. Now, you might, but I never did it. I'd done it before, but when I started doing the high-end homes, we didn't do things like this. They were such large cooking appliances that they all had to have their own individual branch circuit for that type of thing. All right, so let's see here. So 210.19. Let's see here. Let's go. We're at 210.19 A1, A2, A3. Here we go. Right here. Okay. And it says exception number 1. All right. So exception number 1 says conductors tapped from a branch circuit not exceeding 50 amps. So 50 is a maximum on this. Not exceeding 50 amperes supplying electric ranges, wall-mounted ovens, electric ovens, or counter-mounted cooking units, let me scroll up a little bit, shall have an ampacity of not less than 20 amperes, so we already established that, right? And shall be sufficient for the load to be served. So 20 is a minimum, still got to serve the load, right? And it says, these tap conductors include any conductor that is part of the leads supplied with the appliance, so the cords that come with it, okay? And that are smaller than the branch circuit conductors, okay? And it says the taps, in other words, it includes the cords because typically the cords that come with it aren't going to be sized to the full size of the overall branch circuit. They're going to be smaller, obviously, right? Because these taps can be smaller, they're going to be smaller. That's all it's saying. Now it says the taps shall not be longer than necessary for servicing the appliance. So you're just going to, nobody's going to waste cable anyway, right? Or cord anyway, right? So you're just going to run them up there and not be any longer than necessary. But that's where we get the rules. So not to exceed 50, and those taps can't be smaller than 20, although they could be larger than 20. They have to handle the load for the appliance that it's serving, okay? So you're going to have a 50 amp up to a 50, supplying the branch circuit to the junction box. Out of the junction box, at least a 12 is going to go to the oven, and a 12 is going to go to the cooktop. And it might be larger, depending on what the appliance is, okay? All right. Now, to make sure that we're sizing everything to handle this, now we have to deal with the actual branch circuit that supplies all this. All right, so that takes us back to the lesson, okay? We're all good now on the taps. Next, we're dealing with the B. B says where a single branch circuit feeds one cooktop, okay, that's what we got right here, and one or two ovens in the same room. I would think it's all going to be in the kitchen. And the nameplate rating of the appliance is treated the total kW as one range to be found in table 220.55. Okay, so easiest way to remember this is you're going to take whatever the rating is of the cooktops and whatever the rating is of the ovens, you add them together, and you're going to treat that like a single range, right? If that happens to be, if we go to the table, just for craps and giggles, if we go to the table and look at it, and it just has, so we treat it as one range, okay? And if you look at it here, and I gotta scroll up so I can get over there. I treat it as 1, and it's not over 12, then it's just 8 kW, okay? So if I added 1 was 4, one was the two ovens were 4. That's 8, and the cooktop was 3. So that's 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. Treated as one range. If it's not over 12 kW, then the value that you're going to use is what? 8 kW or 8,000. Makes sense? Because you're able to treat it like a single range. And remember, column C is a demand. It's not a percentage. This is a demand. So as long as it's not over 12, then it's just 8 kW. So if I ask you, if you had a range that's 8 kW, what's the kW? It's 8. If I have a range that's 9 kW, what do you use in your calculation? You're going to use 8 kW. You got a range that is 10 kW, what are you going to use in your calculation? 8 kW. You get me? Okay. Because you're permitted to treat it like a single range, and when you do that, you get to use a table. All right? Okay. Let me go back to the lesson here. And so that's what we covered, all of our little pieces in that. And so just remember how you size the taps, and remember how you size the branch circuit that's supplying those taps. Okay? Other little tips to remind you, because you are for exam, and I did notice that Michael says, can't wait to start the Fast Trax program. Yep. Now don't do it, Michael, if you get home and you're tired. I need you to be fresh when you're working in the program. And always remember, code references have to support every question. Once you get to the competency review at the end, Michael, as I tell everybody, I will mark a question wrong. Okay, ask Jesse. I'll mark a question wrong if you leave an NEC reference blank. The whole purpose of this course is to make you find the code references where they're applicable and to be able to support your answer. That's what's going to get you the most out of this program, is make you. I have people that do submit end of units that leave the NEC references blank, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, you spend a good fair amount of money in this program, get the most out of it, okay? Look for all those code references, okay? All right, so what I was saying, another little tip here is, in this scenario right here, you would not need to have a disconnect, provided that you have a breaker lock so that you can lock it in the open off position back at the panel, then you wouldn't need any disconnect here, okay? Just kind of throwing that out there. All right, just a flat old electric range, okay? Probably what's in most of your houses, unless you got gas and you don't have to worry about it. But interesting enough, folks, if you do a load calculation in a dwelling, just kind of tidbit for you. If you do a load calculation in a dwelling and they put the receptacle in, but they end up putting a gas range in, the question I get a lot is, do I have to do my calc? Do I have to take the cooking into situation? And my answer to that is yes, if they put in the actual receptacle for an electric range. Even though it's not there, it's irrelevant. If they put the receptacle in, then at worst case scenario, go with the default of 8 kW, okay? It's the default in your calculation, just kind of a real world scenario, okay? Now, if they don't put any receptacle in at all, right, for the range, and it's all gas, and they don't put any electric receptacle in there, then nothing in the code requires you to put the cooking in a house. Same as they don't require you to do a dryer, okay? If it's there, you have to account for it, okay? Everything else, the code gives us rules, but nothing demands that you have a range, but if you do have one, you have to account for it. If it's a gas, right, you might have an igniter, which can be supplied by your small appliance branch circuit for the igniter, but if you don't have an electric receptacle for the range, then I don't have to account for that in my load calculation. But if they choose to use gas and they still put an electric, like 50 amp or whatnot range in, then you do have to account for it. And you want to take it at least 8,000 unless you know anything differently. That's at least what you want to do that at, okay? All right, Manny Sanchez, thanks for joining. I appreciate the like on the stream. All right, so let's see what we got here. So just a little tips to remember here with the range. This portion under here, so it's permissible to compute the branch circuit load for one range in accordance with 220.55, node 4, y'all saw it. We looked at it earlier. The node 4 was the very first line. The very first line says, hey, if you got a range, go ahead and use 220.55 for that. All right. So exams, remember, anything up to 12K, up to and including 12 kW is going to be 8 kW. Okay. All right. So now what happens if it is when your range is, well, let's go look real quick because I want to show you. If your range happens to fall smaller than that, I doubt it will. But if you did, let me show you here. So here we are at the table. And let's see here. So here's our requirements here. And I suck that this doesn't show you everything. It is what it is. But column A, if it's less than 3.5 kW, then you can use percentages in this column. If it's 3.5 kW to 8.75, you can use percentages out of this column. And by the way, it's the nameplate times this percentage. This is a multiplier. This is percentages, as you can see right here. This is percentages. And column C, for example, is kW. Okay? It's kW. All right? So we're talking about for load calculation, if you're doing a whole load calculation. Now, you always want to use column C, always, okay, unless note 3 applies. And we're not talking about branch circuits here, right? We're talking about we want to use column C unless note 3 is applicable. And by the way, what is note 3? Note 3 down here is when it's over 1.75 through 8.75. And again, if that's what your cooking appliance is, then that note 3 is what gives you the permission to use column A or column B. Don't worry, we're going to do a calculation and kind of talk about that here in a minute. But I just want to kind of give you the bearings of how this table works. Okay. So again, the only difference in, the only difference in this between the 2023 and the 2020 is that these notes have been broken out a little more. Okay, so you have more notes here. I can't remember how many there is. I think there's 7 or 8 total notes now in the 2023. Okay, but it all essentially says the same thing. So it's not like you had to learn something new. It all pretty much says the same. All right, so let's go back to the lesson really quick. All right. All right, so let's calculate some branch circuit for some range applications because we just were talking about it. So let's look at some range calcs. So calculation for range rated 8.75 kW through 12. Okay, 8.75 through 12. Now I'll remind you. Oops, hold on here. Go back here. Let's see, make sure before I get moved over. Okay. All right, so let's kind of look at what we've got here. So branch circuit calculations for one range with a nameplate rating of 12. So remember what I said earlier? Let me do this real quick there. So remember what I said, is there 7 notes? Excellent, thank you, Jesse. So there is 12 kW, right? But over 8.75 through 12, it's basically, or not exceeding 12, because once you start getting down lower, below 8.75, 8.75 or less, then you're able to apply some percentages. But here, it probably works out most easier to just realize that a 12 kW range is just 8 kW. That's it, right? Don't make that harder than it needs to be, okay? And I do see this on our reviews constantly. I was grading today, and I saw some of the students that the question was asked, and the answer was simply 8 kW or 8,000 watts or 8,000 VA, wherever makes you feel comfortable, unless we specifically ask you for it in watts or something. They were like, oh, it's 12,000. But no, it's up to 12. It's just 8 kW. Now, remember what I said? Note 3 would allow me to do what? Would allow me to go to the smaller if that's what it was, if we were dealing with something that was smaller than 8.75, right? But in this case, it's 12. So again, 12. Now, where do we use? So we use this 8, and we're doing branch circuits still. We use this 8, and so it was 8, and we turn that into 8,000. straightforward. And we do just like what we did before with the cooktop in the range. The cooktop in the oven, no different. It's 8,000 divided by 240, it's 33.3 amperes, okay? So we're gonna protect this at 40 amperes, all right? Now, let's go and I gotta show you this really quickly, right? Because then we're gonna go look and see what this would have been if we didn't know how to use 210.19a3, because I wanna show you how with this kind of a pitfall that you can fall into, okay? First of all, the range itself was over 8 3/4, correct? It was 12. Just because we're using demands to size it, the actual range itself before we did all that, was it most certainly over 8 3/4, wasn't it? Yes, it's 12, okay? We're doing a load count, but we need to establish that the range is actually a 12 kW range. That's first and foremost, right? Need to establish that. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is if we say that it is 33.3 amps and we're sizing the overcurrent, what happens if we were just to go to, and some of you already know this, what happens if you were to go to 240.6a? Let's do that real quick, because I want to show you the pitfalls that you could fall into, and I don't want you to fall into this, especially for these ranges. Okay, so 240.6, and here we go. So I will scroll to the right, and you notice what we've got? We've got a 35. So some people would say that says 33.3, right? And so because it says 33.3, then let's go back to the lesson. Then that would be the next standard size would be what? A 35. Now, you could do a 35 if you want. In the real world, because of the way the cycle on and off, it's probably going to work. But there's some rules in the code we have to be aware of, and this is why I'm bringing these out, because these are low-hanging fruit on exams. I see them all the time. These little questions, and this might be the difference between you passing and failing, okay? So, why do we choose in 40? Because of 210.19a3. So we need to read what that says. And we were there just a little while ago. So 210.19, and we're doing a3, so right here. Okay, now here's what it says. Remember now, we're in 210, so it's because we're talking about a branch circuit. So here's what we're looking at. So 210.19.3 right here. See this 40 amps right here? It says for ranges of 8 3/4 or more rating, the minimum branch circuit rating shall be 40 amperes. Okay, remember, this is not 8 3/4 after we've done the math. We're saying this is an 8 kW for the math, but this is reminding us that the range itself is 8 3/4 or larger, and it was a 12 kW. Okay, this is why I don't want you to get confused. So this tells us that the minimum size has got to be at least a 40. So even though our math, even though when we looked at it, it said 33.3, and we're thinking we can go to the next standard size, we can't, because it says that, hey, that range is more than 8 3/4. In fact, it was a 12. So if that's the case, we're simply talking about the protection. It has to be at least what? 40 amperes. And when we say minimum branch circuit rating, you know how you get the rating of the branch circuit? It's based on the overcurrent device. That's what sets the tone for the rating. Okay? I could have a 2 gauge terminate. I'm just saying I could. Hypothetical, folks. I could have a 2 gauge, right? Terminated onto a 40 amp rated overcurrent device, assuming it would fit and it doesn't violate the lugs, right? But it's still, what's the rating of that circuit? It's still 40, even though that 2 gauge could handle a lot more current. It's the rating of the overcurrent device is dictating, because you know what? You could have increased the size of it for voltage drop. In this case, we didn't, but you could have. It doesn't change the branch circuit rating. It's dictated by the overcurrent protected device. Let me see what we got here. I saw questions pop up. Oh, B, I didn't see it. Congratulations, B. Passed your test on Friday. I am excited for you. Your journey is just beginning. I tell people all the time, once you pass the license, then you really can start absorbing this stuff and really learning it and getting better and better and better. Because you know what? Y'all are the next generation. I'm going to die. I'm going to be gone. All of us that are getting older, y'all are the next generation that have to carry this stuff on. If you take a lot of pride in what you do, you won't stop learning at your licensure. You will keep on doing it because you know what? You realize that it's like a doctor, like a lawyer. Everybody has to continue honing their skills. And there's so much in the NEC that we just don't know. It's a thick document. So pick pieces. My challenge for you, B, is to find some areas in the code that you struggle with and latch onto them, like transformers. Latch onto it and just simply learn everything you can, because now you're not in a hurry anymore. Latch onto it and then milk it for everything you can. Ask people like me, ask anybody you know, and just milk it for what it's worth. Again, too many people say they don't care about code. I can't help it. I'm passionate about code, and I think you folks are too. So again, great job, B. Alan, what does Alan say? I have a master electrician says you can rate a 12 kW ovens feeder and breaker at 8 kW. Is that true? Yes, we just talked about it. Okay. So if it's up to 12, then it's still only, go to the NEC real quick again. So I'll show you that. Okay. And where is it? 220. Got 55. You might have come in late. I can respect that. Okay. So right here, we're allowed to use the table. One appliance. Okay. One appliance. Not over 12 kW. So you said it's 12 kW. One appliance, not over 12. This is it right there, 8. That's the maximum demand, kW. So he's absolutely right. So a 12 kW oven and load calculation, whether it's feeder or service, if you're doing the load calculation, it counts as 8 kW. It's absolutely correct. Elwood, I didn't see you in the house, brother. Hey, B, if you're looking to do other states, talk to Michael. That's what he does. He gets them in all kinds of states, you know. Ruben, I didn't see you in the house, Ruben. Thanks for joining as well. Okay. Yeah, Alan says he's never seen a 35 amp. It's a standard, but again, it's probably not a standard in what supply houses are going to carry. You probably have a better chance actually of finding the 35 amp at a Home Depot or Lowe's than probably a supply house. But they are available. It is a standard size. So there you go. All right, let's get back to the lesson. All right. And here's our code. Again, this is just what we went over right here. So low-hanging fruit, okay? Just remember, ranges. Don't get these wrong on an exam. They're very easy. Single range, the branch circuits questions. Single cooktop, use a nameplate. Oven, single oven, use a nameplate. All of this is given direction to you in 220.55 note 4. Okay. All right. If you're in the 2023 edition, Jesse, what is the notes that deal with the branch circuits, if you're still with me, brother, for the 2023? Because I don't want to move away from the 2020 to do that. But they're all there. Trust me. None of them disappeared. Okay. All right. Let's do a little one here. Okay. Now, what happens? All right. You ready? So, Alan, here you go. So, you ready? So what happens if you have calculations for ranges rated more than 12 kW, okay? So if I have a calculation for one range with a nameplate rating of 15 kW, okay? So this one's 15 kW, all right? Well, in your case, Alan, if that's what the nameplate says, the manual says use a 40 amp, then I would use a 40 amp. And it must be, since it's a double oven, then it must be something with the cycling. But if that's what the manufacturer wants, then go with the 40. Again, if the manual's calling that out, I'm going to go with the manual. There must be something in the cycling that allows that. Combined, they might be 16.5. But how they cycle, it might not exceed 40. Okay, hard pressed to tell on that one. Let's see here. All right, so let's look at this one here. So now let's say you get a question. Again, we're talking branch circuits. And the reason I wanted to focus on branch circuits tonight, guys, is because I have videos out there that talks about everything you need to know about ranges. And if you're in the Fast Trax Tube or you're in the Fast Trax Plus program, then go watch those. If you're in the Fast Trax Black and you want to see those videos, I think the links are posted up in the Sparky Hub under the Fast Trax Student folder. Again, you're only going to see that folder if you go sign up for the Sparky Hub and then let me know via email that you signed up for it and tell me what your username is so that I can verify that you are actually a Fast Trax student, and then I will give you access to it. And the videos are linked in there too. Okay, so I don't want you to think you can't get access to videos. You can. Okay. All right. Let's see here. All right, where was I? All right, so here we go. Let's kind of work this out here. So we got a 15 kW range, one range. All right, now compute the branch circuit load for one range in accordance with 220.55. We got that already. That's what note 4 said to do. And it says column C is for 12 kW and under, right? But then you've got note 1 that applies to ranges over 1 kW. So remember, if I'm going to now be able to use the table and I'm doing a branch circuit and I'm going to be, it sends me up to 220.55, the table, I get to use all of the applicable notes here on that table where applicable, okay? I love that word, applicable, applicable. All right, so first thing we need to do is, what does note 1 say? Because we know we're over 12. So how do we know which note we're going to use? All right, well, let's go to the NEC. And we're already still here, so let me go on and scroll this down so we can see the note. And hopefully you're following along in your code book if you're everybody other than Jesse, because he's probably doesn't have a code book with it. All right, number 1, it says, note number 1, it says over 12, Jesse, there you go. Sorry, you missed the question. Note 5 and 6. So note 5 and 6 is the one that deals with the branch circuits in the 2023, okay? So over 12 kW through 27 kW ranges, all of the same rating, okay? Purnell, thank you for liking this stream. I appreciate it. All right, so definitely where we're at. We only got one, though, so we don't have to worry. And it's obviously between 12, over 12, and not over 27. So we're in note 1. So let's look at it a little more. It says, for ranges individually rated more than 12 kW, and ours was, it was 15, by the way, but not more than 27, it says the maximum demand in column C, so it's the value you're going to use, what you're going to be working with is from column C. That's the value we'll be working with. It says the maximum demand in column C shall be increased 5% for each additional kilowatt rating or major fraction thereof by which the rating of individual ranges exceeds 12. All right, so we do exceed 12. We have a 15, okay? So let's go back and follow what this thing says do. All right, so we got 15. We want to find how many kW it exceeds 12, okay? Because we got to do 5% for what? Everyone that exceeds 12. All right, and I'm going to see if anybody in here can find the error that's on this in the book. There's an error. And most of you know this error, but let's see who's the first one to find the error of what's on screen. Now, please don't think it's the calculation at the error, because that's not the error. But see if you can find what it is. Let's see who's the first one to find it. All right, I knew it was there, but again, it's already changed and we couldn't get the author to change it. All right, so first thing we're going to do is 15 minus 12. That's going to give me 3 kW. So 15 exceeds 12 by 3 kW. So it's 5% for every kW that exceeds what? 12, right? There you go, Swartzy. I knew my Swartz would have it. All right, so in this case right here, it's 15%. So remember what it said? It says use the value from column C, the value from the maximum demand, right? So it using what? 8 kW, because that is the maximum demand under column C for one appliance, right? So we're going to take that 8 kW, that's the max demand for one appliance in column C. That's what the code said. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to multiply that by 15%, right? Because that's exactly what it said do. So I take the demand from the table, which was 8 for one range, Multiply that by 15%. That's 1.2 kW. I'm going to add that 1.2 kW to what? The 8, because that's the demand from the table. So that gives me 1.2 kW plus 8 kW. That is 9.2 kW. There you go. All right? I know you can't see it to the left, so there you go. It's 1.2 plus 8 is 9.2. Now, you know how I am. I like this stuff to be in watts. I like it to be in VA, those type of things. Get it broken down. So we're going to take it, that 9.2 kW, 9.2 times 1,000 if you wish. And that's going to be 9,200. We're going to divide that by 240. Same things we've done before. And that gives me 38.3 amps, right? Again, doesn't correspond to an overcurrent protected device, right? So what we're going to do is it's going to be a 40 amp overcurrent protected device, right? But now we need a conductor that can handle 38.3 amps. So we'll go to the NEC and we're going to go to, and I didn't tell you any conductor type, so we're under 100 amps. So we're going to be in a 60-degree column, right? Because I didn't tell you anything otherwise. So let's go to 31016. See what we got here. Make sure y'all can see it on the screen. And so we're here. I need one for 38.3 amps. So, all right. So 30 is not going to work. There you go. There's that 40. Oops, right there. There's that 40 and there's that 8 gauge right there. And we're out of those pesky small conductor rules. We don't have to worry about them anymore. And so what do we got? We got an 8 gauge. And that's exactly how you do it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. We don't have to worry about anything to do with the 210.19A3 because it's already 40 amps, so we don't have to worry about that. And so we sized our conductor accordingly. Easy peasy, okay? Well, who we got in here? Ruben, brother Frank C. Where you at? Who's Frank? Did I miss somebody? There's Frank. I'm sorry. Thanks for joining us, Frank. I didn't see you sneak in there, my brother. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Ruben, for shouting out there. I didn't see him. All right. Okay, so that's going to be it for that part of it. So now we're going to shift a little bit, and let's see if I can't find where we're at real quick. Hold on. And we're going to go to, let's see here, 8. Okay, so I'm in unit 8. And what we're going to do is, let's see here if I can, let me see if it gives me an example. No, it doesn't give me an example here. Let's see here. Bear with me, guys. Let me see if I can find something that I wanted to look for real quick. Bear with me. I'll find it. Sit tight, intermission, have a beer, maybe, maybe not. And let me look for something real quick. I think I have some rudimentary stuff that I can show. It might be helpful for us. Bear with me here. I'll find it. Relax. Don't worry. Let's see if I can't find it. Let's see here. Sorry about this, folks. I didn't think I was going to do this, but I'm into it now. So I just want to do it while I'm into it. Hold on, but I can't see where, I can't remember where I did this at. Hold on here. All right, let's see if I can bring this up here. Now, let's see here if I can do a view. Now, I don't know how well this will be, okay, because I just bringing this in. So I'm going to see if I can't bring this in real quickly, folks. Let's see if I can't do this with me. Bear with me. I'm doing this on the fly, folks. So let me see if I can't add something here. Let's see if I can add something to this equation. Let's do this. And let's see if I can't tailor this thing to fit the screen here. Bear with me, guys. I will try to see if I can't tailor this to get you something in here. Let me see if I can't do this real quick. I'm sorry. I'm doing this on the fly because I really wasn't going to go in these tonight. But y'all had me, I had me grooving into this code references. So, okay. So let's look at this here for a second. And I'll put this right here and we'll go with this. Okay. So some of you might be familiar with this. We have not updated this. But it is a new 2023. We will be doing some of these. But we want to look at some of the examples here. And we'll just run through these really quickly because I want to make sure you get some of these. And some of these are going to be repetitive. So just hang with me. All right. All right. So here's the first thing. One of the things to remember, and let's see, I don't like that real quick. Hold on, guys. I want to make sure I get everything in it. Okay. Nope, still don't like that. All right, hold on, guys. All right, good enough. All right, so again, what we're looking for here is just remember for exam, when you're doing a load calculation now, we shifted from branch circuits, we're doing load calculations now. If you got demand load for following ranges, if it's a 9W, it's 10 kW, it's 11 kW, it's a 12 kW, guess what? The answer is, for this, in all cases, the answer is 8 kW, okay? So if you're doing a load calculation, or just like you saw what we did for the branch circuit, though same principle applies. If you're using the table, then all of these right here, okay, would still, as far as a load calc, they're only going to be 8 kW. I know the nameplate might say 12, but for the load calc, you're only going to be using 8 kW, okay? All right, staying with column C for a second, answer the following question. What is the demand load for 30, you with me? 30 12 kW ranges, all right? So I'm doing a load calc. There's 30 of them. They're all the same. They're 12 kW for every one of them. Since all the ranges are the same, we simply use column C again and table 220.55 and find the number of ranges and follow over to the value for C. Okay, so they're all exactly the same. So if we went to the NEC, you get a code question that asks something like that, then if you're lucky,